Okay, names in the news around the National Football League. Kirk Cousins' only statement hours after the draft was, "Why didn't you get us players who can help us this week, this coming season?" That's a big issue. Kirk Cousins dissatisfied that Atlanta didn't go get more skill people or did not go get more people on defense. They got a developmental quarterback. Big story out of San Francisco. This thing's got legs. You know, the 49ers have salary cap issues, monster cap issues, because they've got to extend out, obviously, Brock Purdy. Their salary cap issue figures are phenomenal with Christian McCaffrey and with the tight end. They got an issue with their receivers now. Brandon Ayuk's in the last year of his contract. Teams called on him. They like Ayuk. Deebo Samuels has got 2 more years at about $45 million left on his deal. They're shopping Deebo. They've evidently decided they'd rather have Ayuk rather than Deebo Samuels. Injuries may come into play. They almost had a deal with Buffalo at the last minute. Buffalo backed away, did not want to trade the first-round pick for Deebo Samuels. But the story out of San Francisco is somebody's leaving, and it's probably going to be Deebo, who's a multi-position guy but has had multiple injuries 2 years running. And we talked about the Justin Herbert story. Say what? Buffalo, New England, Minnesota called the Chargers when they're on the clock and I said, "Would you trade Justin Herbert for a pick right now?" I've heard a lot of stupid things. Never heard anything like that. Chargers said, obviously, "No, we're not doing that." And the other is the ongoing saga with the Kansas City Chiefs. Clark Hunt said yesterday, after the draft completed, that the Chiefs are going to seriously evaluate looking across the state line. It's only 8 miles from downtown Kansas City, Missouri, looking across the state line out to Kansas City, Kansas, to get a football stadium built. This in the aftermath of the voters revolting and saying, "No, we're not going to give you $800 million in a sales tax to help you renovate Arrowhead Stadium." Now, they've still got 6 years left on their Arrowhead lease, but in 6 years window, you can make a deal across the state line to build a stadium. So somewhere down the road, we might be doing this podcast talking about the Kansas City, Kansas Chiefs leaving Arrowhead Stadium because they don't know how to come up with the money, and they're willing to put a whole pile of their own money into the renovation. But they wanted the sales tax that was already in place extended so that they could use that revenue to help pay for the renovation. They're going to pay for half the renovation, but the voters in Kansas City said no. So it might be the Kansas City, Kansas Chiefs going forward. So, John, do you want to respond to Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, the Kirk Cousins thing is just bananas. I mean, I'm still having a hard time digesting that. But let's talk a little bit about the stadium. For the Chiefs, didn't they just redo Arrowhead not too long ago? Wasn't it like rebuilt or refurbished?
It's been renovated twice. The last time was in, I want to say, 2002. That's when I was in there.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a $245 million renovation. It was fabulous. But that's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
If not more. And the fact that they're willing, Clark Hunt's willing to put half of his money into this renovation pot, in addition to the continuation of the sales tax. And the people said, no.
I wonder if the people in Kansas are willing to pay. You think so? Is there like a sales tax over there in the other state now?
Well, from what I gather, there are plans to help finance. Either they're going to build a stadium for the Kansas City Royals, or they might build a stadium for the Kansas City Chiefs. Mm-hmm. Somebody, I would bet, is going to wind up on the other side of the state line.
You know what I really like about Arrowhead, and it's just kind of a weird thing, is their big screen is in the shape of an oval, like a football kind of. And that always kind of caught my attention. And it's been like that forever, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, a lot of that stadium was constructed for the AFL Kansas City Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And then what they did was they added skyboxes, and then they raised the skyboxes, raised the seating above the skyboxes, and put a second layer of skyboxes there. And then they did stuff at both ends. They enclosed the stadium. It's a great venue. It's a bowl. I mean, you are sitting and you are looking right down and you are on top of the field. It's a very, very unique football-only venue.
You're looking live at Kansas City. You know, the other thing about Herbert is amazing. Imagine trading Herbert with the clock ticking in the draft and having to make an impulse decision like that. I wonder if New England was hoping to maybe get the Chargers off guard or something.
Could be, but we all know what that young man has accomplished in that period of time. For what, 4 years now with the
Yeah.
Bolts, statistically, without a good team around him, or with a team that's always been hurt. Whether he's losing all of his receivers, 1 year he lost all of his offensive linemen, another year, his whole defensive line was a disaster. No, Chargers say no. Yeah, and you wouldn't do a deal like that in the snap of the fingers. Buffalo says,
Yeah.
or New England says, we'll trade you 3, give us Justin Herbert. So give the Chargers 3 and 5. It's got to be more than that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
You want to give me 3? You want to give me your second round pick? You want to give me next year's number 1? Maybe you want to give me 3 number 1s? Those are the kind of prices you pay for a bright young quarterback that's under a long-term contract that's been very successful.
Yeah, well, I think even if they offered the mother load, you still don't take it because it's so hard to get a good quarterback, and you finally got one, and you have to roll the dice on, maybe hoping Bo Nix is your savior.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I don't think I've heard anything like that just happening, because they had no conversations with New England at all. All of a sudden, New England called you when you're on the clock. It was what, 10 minutes, 12 minutes between draft picks?
Something like that, yeah.
No, can't do that. Okay, we get to halftime.